So we live in constant relationship with all other living beings. And everything we have, everything we know, everything we can do is all due to the kindness and efforts of others. We cannot survive in our life without others. So each small interaction we have with somebody, be it a human being or even an insect, is the chance to connect. It's the chance to tune into the fact that this person wants happiness and not suffering, and that they also have the potential to become a fully awakened Buddha. And each contact, however small we have, we can make a contact of kindness, contact of wishing others well. And if we have that kind of attitude, then we're not going to compete with others in a way to be victorious and put them down. We're not going to be quite as self-centered. And we won't spend so much time ruminating in our hurts, in our traumas, in our grudges. Because having a kind heart really influences the rest of our lives. So with this kind of thought, then let's have the motivation that what we share together today, the merit we create by thinking about important topics and relating them to our own minds, may that make a positive contribution to society. And in the long term, may it influence all other living beings in a positive way. So with a motivation aiming to attain full awakening, so we can be of the greatest benefit to living beings, then we will share and discuss today. So the reason I want to talk about the 5 precepts in more depth is they present a guideline for good living. Yeah. And it's kind of relating to the 2 questions about how to sustain your practice, when you're in a different environment. Because we, by and large in our lives, we choose the environment we're in. And depending upon what environment we want to put ourselves in, and the people in that environment, and the values that are held in that place, then we are influenced by that. Yeah, so it influences how we think, which influences how we speak and how we act. Yeah, so if you're having a hard time continuing your practice when you're, not in an environment like this, then really look closely at the places that you choose to be and who you choose to hang out with. Yeah, because that's going to really influence, how you decide to spend your time. So, of course, attachment comes up here because we're attached to certain people, we're attached to certain activities, and, by the force of attachment, it's kind of like we're donkeys with a ring in our nose, and with a string attached, and somebody pulls the string and says, "Come this way, you'll have something good," and we're the donkey, and we just go right after it. Like, something good, yes. Discriminating wisdom, what is it? How's it going? What are the results? How's it going to affect me and other people? No discriminating wisdom. The opportunity of pleasure, zoom. Okay, so we're really like donkeys in many ways. Yeah. And donkeys suffer a lot. Yeah, I lived in Dharamsala, India, and the donkeys there always just really got to me because they were loaded with bags of heavy slate. That was what was used for the roofs of buildings, or brick, stones actually. And these poor donkeys had to carry this up and down, up the hill and down the hill. And, they had no control. They were pulled by their owner to do this. It was a miserable life. But that's really how we are with objects of attachment, It's like, yank the cord and it's like we have no control. We're totally out of control. So the point here is, since we're influenced by our environment, choose the environment that we put ourselves in as much as possible. Yeah. So when I make decisions, a couple of criteria I use are what choice is going to allow me or enable me to live an ethical life in the best way, because that's an important priority for me. And then the second is which choice will help me to cultivate that kind heart. Yeah. And then those 2 things really influence what I choose. Mm-hmm. And there's, of course, from those 2 priorities, there's lots of other things that branch out because, to create the circumstances for those, then you need all sorts of other things. So that brings us into talking about ethical conduct. Okay? And at first, I don't know about you, but when I first heard in my first Buddhist course about ethical conduct, it was like Sunday school. They said we're going to, there's something called the perfection of ethical conduct. So I heard that term and I said, oh, the perfection of Sunday school. You know, because what was Sunday school about? Well, I don't know, most of you, some of you may have gone, some of you not, okay. Yeah, okay, Sunday school was Sunday school. But what really disturbed me was the difference between what I was taught and how I saw people actually behaving. Yeah, there was a really big gap in there between do this and don't do that. But as my mother often would say, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, but kids learn from observing, yeah, not just from being told. So they tend to copy what they see adults do. And so we get this idea of, well, whatever I can get away with doing without getting in trouble, I'll do it because it benefits me. Yeah? Right? So you kind of, navigate your way. And what's the driving force behind that navigation? My attachment to pleasure. My attachment to I want what I want when I want it. Yeah? And what's the key word in everything we're hearing here? I. Yeah. It's all about me. And as we know, I am the center of the universe. And as the center of the universe, everything should happen the way I want. Right? Mm-hmm. Some of you are looking really stone-faced. Yeah. Yeah. You think I believe that stone face? I love it sometimes when people give certain answers, and it's like, really? You expect me to believe that? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can admit it. You're the center of the universe, right? Yeah. Yeah. And the problem with the universe is it doesn't know that you're the center of it. Yeah. And if only everybody would recognize that I was the center and they should follow all of my advice and do what I want, then we would have a really good universe. Yeah. Right? Because I have advice for everybody. Yeah. And the problem is either they don't want my advice or they don't follow it. Oh, these stupid sentient beings. But of course, they give us advice, and how do we respond? Mind your own business. Yeah, don't tell me what to do. You're bossy. Okay. So, actually, the reason I got sidetracked with that is, first of all, it's one of my favorite sidetracks. Yeah. But second of all, it comes back to ethical conduct, because having a kind heart and ethical conduct go together. Ethical conduct is about not harming, principally about not harming, and kind heart is about being a benefit. Okay, and those go together. If you harm others, how are you going to have a kind heart and benefit them? Okay, and if you don't want to benefit them, then it's difficult to restrain from just going after your own pleasure all the time. So I may bring up a few political figures here. Some people, some of you look very happy when I do that. What a relief. Because sometimes I get these emails like, "You're a nun, what are you doing talking about politics?" And it's like, I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about ethical conduct. You know? It's just these people happen to be very good examples of not keeping ethical conduct. Yeah, so I'm talking about traits of human beings. I'm not talking about politics. But some people instantly go, "You're a nun, you should be praying and meditating all the time. You shouldn't be involved in worldly things like politics." Huh? Yeah? To me, if your spiritual practice does not relate to every aspect of your life, then what is it? You know, to me, I mean, my spiritual practice has got to influence how I look at everything, you know, because otherwise you wind up being a Sunday Buddhist instead of a Sunday Christian, yeah? Except you come to courses that aren't on Sunday, but you have all the right gear, okay? You have your own meditation cushion. You wear yoga clothes, you know, the best kind of yoga clothes, the ones they advertise in the magazines. Yeah, despite the fact that very tight yoga clothes are not particularly comfortable for sitting cross-legged in meditation. You know, and you have all the stuff you need. And then also, according to the advertisements in Buddhist magazines, yeah, you can pick up a partner at the retreat or the course, yeah. And so, you know, you have the pictures of they're both doing walking meditation, kind of looking at each other. You know, almost colliding because they're looking this way. Yeah. So come and have Dharma, you know, in the perfect environment. Actually, ethical conduct is making us think a little bit deeper than that. Okay, so the 5 precepts kind of lay out the general attitude about ethical conduct and things to avoid, yeah, and things to practice. When the Buddha talked about what to avoid, he didn't make up the rules, okay? So it's very different than a theistic religion where the rules came from God, you know? And if you disobey God's rules, you know what's happening to you. There is none of that in Buddhism. Okay? Buddha did not invent the rules. He does not give rewards and punishments. He's not omnipotent, yeah, and able to change everything. Yeah. We have the whole thing here of things depending on causes and conditions. Yeah. Not on a permanent creator who, if somebody's permanent, then they can't change anyway, so they can't create. But that's another topic. Okay, I won't go off on that one right now, although it's an interesting one. Okay, but so the Buddha has set out kind of 5 things. So to abandon taking life, to abandon taking things that have not been freely given to us, to abandon unkind and unwise sexual conduct, to abandon lying, and to abandon taking intoxicants. Okay, so I want to explain why each of these are important. I'm sure some people's buttons will be pushed, okay? But having our buttons pushed is good. Yeah, when people push our buttons, it makes us think more. Okay. So the first one, not killing. So of course, not killing human beings. No, of course. But also not killing animals, insects. Yeah. So it's really valuing life. That's the value here, really valuing life. So in a Buddhist thing, animals were not created by God to be things that human beings can enjoy and use for our own benefit, like the donkeys carrying the heavy slate. Okay? These are living beings who, due to their karma, have that kind of rebirth right now. They still have the potential to have good rebirths. But even, in whatever life form they have right now, they treasure their life. Yeah, I mean, you can see, even with the little insects, if we poke them, yeah, they react. So, it's an what it's pointing to is having an attitude of non-harmfulness. Okay, at least on the physical level, because that's the grossest one. Yeah. So that all sounds well and good. Now, the first question that someone's going to come up, excuse me if I take it out of your mouth, is, does that mean that we have to be vegetarians? Okay, now it's going to depend on different Buddhist schools, okay? According to the Theravadas and Tibetans, it doesn't mean that you have to be a vegetarian, yeah? In Theravada Buddhism, they go on Pindapat with their alms bowl, and the thing there is to practice accepting whatever given to you, and not say, "Oh, I can't eat that. That's meat. Give me that one. Give me that one." Just having preferences. So you just accept what's ever given. In Tibet, they eat meat. The Tibetans eat meat now, even though they're in exile, because in old Tibet there wasn't a whole lot of other stuff to eat. Okay, there was sampa, ground grain, and sampa, and everything else came from yaks, huh? Yeah, the dried Tibetan cheese. It's a very good way to have to go to the dentist to have crowns afterwards. It's so hard, it breaks your teeth if you try and chew it.
But it lasts a long journey.
Yeah. Okay, so, but in the Chinese tradition, they really emphasize bodhicitta. The Tibetans emphasize bodhicitta too, but when it comes to eating meat, there's a few adjustments. Yeah, am I polite enough? Yeah. But the Chinese tradition is vegetarian, yeah, because it's the whole attitude of not harming. With the Tibetans and the Theravadas, what they do say is, if you eat meat, don't kill the animal yourself. Okay, don't eat meat where you know somebody else killed that animal for you. Even if you suspect that somebody may have killed it for you, don't eat it. Okay, so that tempers it a little bit. It's an individual thing. I have my preferences, yeah, and I'll tell them to you. Yeah, I really advocate being a vegetarian, and then people say, well, can you really get around a diet being a vegetarian? Yes, you can, completely possible, okay? But it depends on what people want to do. Does that mean that you have to be vegan? No. Then also some other questions come up. What about assisted suicide. Yeah, it's a big controversial issue in society now. Is assisted suicide killing? Yeah, from a Buddhist viewpoint, yes, it is. Yeah, whether actually for it to be a complete, let's talk about suicide first, to be a complete action of killing, the other being has to die before you. In suicide, that doesn't happen. But it is, a harmful action. And it's, in saying that, the Buddhists are not saying, oh, you're bad if you kill yourself. The attitude is more, this is a real tragedy. You have a precious human life with the ability to meet the teachings and practice the teachings. You have so much potential. Yeah. And even though there's problems in your life, there's still potential to transform your mind. There's still potential to make your own life useful. So it's a tragedy when people can't see that. And they think that ending their life is going to end the suffering. Okay. What's interesting, one of the, because I do prison work corresponding with inmates, one of the guys that I write to told me that at one point he was seriously considering suicide, but when he learned about rebirth, he decided suicide was stupid because he was just going to get reborn. Smart guy, because he'd probably get born in a worse rebirth if he's dying with the sense of anger or some kind of really suffering type of mind. It, makes that kind of karma ripen. So suicide itself is like that. Assisted suicide, and this goes for euthanasia of our pets too. We think, oh, I'm helping putting them out of their misery. And our idea there is that when somebody dies, there's nothing that happens afterwards. When you're dead, you're dead. Okay? From a Buddhist viewpoint, when you die, you get reborn. If you still have ignorance in your mind, you get reborn. So dying is going to stop the manifest suffering of this life, but you don't know where you're going to be reborn, And at certain levels of practice, people have control over where they will be reborn. I don't know about you, I certainly don't. Okay? So, if you die with like a negative attitude, it kind of is going to steer you in that direction. Okay? So it's really important to see the value of our life. For many reasons, it's important. I was working with one man who was dying. This was in Singapore. He was a young man, and he had just been accepted to Tulane University for graduate work. So in Singapore, to be accepted to a foreign university is like, you have a good opportunity. Yeah, so he had just been accepted. And he had stage 4 cancer. So I was kind of helping him through the whole thing. And one day in Singapore, they live in flats, everybody's stacked on top of each other. So he lived on, I don't know what, 12th, 15th floor of some building. And one day we were looking out the window and he said, I'm sick, I can't do anything, my life is worthless, useless. Look at all those people doing things. And I said to him, those people are running around doing all sorts of things, completely motivated by attachment and anger and ignorance. Yeah, you can run around doing that, but that doesn't mean that your life is valuable. And I said, you may be confined to bed right now, but you can still, you have your mental faculties and you can still use them in a positive way, yeah? To learn the Dharma, to think about the teachings, to meditate and transform your mind, to cultivate good qualities. You still have so much potential and you can make your life worthwhile, even though your body is, what the body is. Yeah. And so that's really true, and it's important to remember that. Yeah. So that's the first one, not to abandon killing. So needless to say, war, stupid. Yeah. I think war, now this is my particular soapbox, okay? I already told you I grew up during the Vietnam era. To me, war is one of the stupidest things human beings ever invented, And you look at what's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine, and what do human beings do? They spend so much time, so much energy, so much labor to create, tanks and air systems and howitzers and planes and all this other stuff. And what's the purpose of it? So they can create more negative karma by killing other people. What are the effects of that? First, to build all these things, you're trashing the environment. Then in the battle, you've seen pictures, I imagine, of just, how many tanks, how many armor carriers and things just in the middle of fields. You build all this stuff with so much effort and so much expense, and then it just becomes litter that obstructs you from doing anything good with the land because you have to spend so much time and energy. I look at this, what are they going to do with all these dead tanks and all the helicopters that have been shot down and all the armaments and things? And what do you do with all of that? How can people get back to having a normal life? What in the world is normal? But that's another soapbox. Okay. Yeah, so to me, war is just, how is it? I don't comprehend how people think that violence is a way to solve conflict. I don't get it. And I don't think it works. Violence doesn't solve conflict. It is conflict. It creates more conflict. You may be victorious, but the other people don't like you afterwards. Yeah? So why in the world do we do that? It's beyond me. Okay, so needless to say, fighting in a war would be just not. Yeah. Then the next question you're going to ask is, what about self-defense? When I'm walking down the street and somebody, has a gun and they want to mug me and, they want my wallet, my purse, my whatever, what do? Give it to them. Yeah? Or if you need something important out of your computer, say, can I copy this first and then give you my computer? It sounds ridiculous, but very often in these kinds of situations, if you do something that's totally unexpected, the person is shocked. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah. Okay, let me give you another story about that. I heard of one woman. She had just gone shopping in New York, and she was walking across Central Park, in the evening. It was dark, and she's carrying all the things that she had bought. And as she's walking across Central Park, she hears footsteps behind her, and she knows that somebody's tracking her. So what did she do? She turned around, looked at the guy, and said, "Here, carry these." And then she started walking, and the guy was so shocked, he just followed her. And when they got to the other side of Central Park, she said, "Give it to me back." And he did, and that was it. Yeah. So, sometimes you use a little bit of creativity in these situations. Yeah. And it's not that you have a choice of kill them or kill you. And whenever people give examples, they're always the most extreme examples that, are rarely there. But, somebody's attacking you. Yes, you can defend yourself. There's many ways to defend yourself without taking out an AR-15. You don't need an assault weapon. Yeah, and you don't need a pistol. You don't need any of that stuff. Okay? There's other ways where you can get somebody, distract them, do something else. Maybe you have to injure them, but it's a minor injury. It's enough to stop them doing what they're doing in that moment without killing them. Yeah. So I think that's important too in our gun-soaked country. Yeah. Okay, that's the first precept. Yeah, it takes me a while. Then the second one is taking things that haven't been freely given to us. This is often called stealing, but the word stealing, because remember how just the words itself, our connotations with the words influence us. When we hear of stealing, we think of somebody putting on a mask and breaking in our house in the middle of the night, okay? So I don't suppose any of you are going to do that. Maybe if your college debt gets too bad. I don't anticipate that. But there are so many ways to steal. You work for a company, and you make long-distance calls on their account. You go out to lunch with your friends, but you say that it is a business lunch. Okay. You use the stationery of the office or other things from your employer for your own personal good. Okay. Wherever you can sneak around paying fees or taxes, you do. Yeah. If you don't have to pay a tax, you don't pay it. But if you have to pay it, and you're legally bound, then finding all these, here's where my talk about the politicians come in. How much tax did our former president pay on his billions of dollars of income? Did you hear that? $750.
What?
That's what Trump paid, I think, during 2 years of taxes. 1 year he didn't pay anything. Okay. Okay, this is going to be a history lesson too. Yeah, but so that's considered stealing. Or you're supposed to go in someplace and pay a fee, but you go in the back entrance or whatever, okay? So that's a form of taking what's not freely given to us. Then the question arises, which question did I have here for this one? What's your question going to be? Yeah.
Remote work?
Huh?
Remote work?
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap, because the boundaries between work and personal are really, really hazy at that point. So
Right.
like, if I take a 15-minute break between meetings, like is that considered stealing? Or if I decide I'm gonna watch like a TV show over my lunch break, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those are the kinds of things you have to check with your lawyer, with your employer. but legally you're supposed to get, legally you're supposed to get so many minutes break for so much work. Yeah, but it's also, if you're working an hourly job, you clock in at a different time than you actually arrived. You clock in, you go out, do your shopping, come back, and then do your work. So different kinds of things like that. Yeah. Oh, so then the other thing people are going to say, but I don't want to pay my taxes for the war effort. Yeah. So I don't want to pay taxes, because they go for war, they go for violence. Well, what you do is you write on your check, do not use for violence, do not use for war. Use this money for to benefit people in society. Yeah, and so in your mind at least, you are steering your tax money towards a beneficial purpose. Yeah, because you don't want to support, tanks and all this rubbish. Because it is, it looks bright and shiny in a military parade, but it soon becomes rubbish. Okay, so that's stealing. Do you have any other questions about? Yeah.
Sort of a question / comment. I was going through and thinking about all the different things that I did that could potentially be an issue. One of the things, which I think is probably a big problem on the internet, is that there are lots of things that are copied or uploaded or available without the permission of the original.
Yeah.
And that was something that I had not been considering, and so I have to update my
Yeah. I think, like in terms of books, I know for myself, if I have bought the hard copy of the book, then to me, downloading the online copy is okay, because the author's got, actually, it's not the author that makes the money on the book. Okay, if you ever think you're going to get rich being an author, the only way to do it is a tell-all book. Yeah. If I, the amount, for example, I get on royalties for my books, like nothing. Really, it's like horrible. You could never survive on that. If I wrote a book called Buddhist Nun Tells All, boy, whoa, everybody would buy it. Yeah, wouldn't they? Yeah, the secrets of tantric Buddhism. Yeah, and look, finally, we're going to hear it from the perspective of the nun. Well, yes, you sit down and do your practice. That's tantric Buddhism. Okay, so that's in terms of music. Maybe if you've bought the record, and you want to, but they don't even have records anymore, do they?
Spotify.
Huh?
Spotify and things where you don't have to pay for the music. You can pay for the premium app, but you still have access to a whole bunch of music.
Things, but somehow that person gets recompense.
It's kind of like with authors.
Yeah. Well, authors, this is typical for authors. Unless, you're, well, Kelly Conway wrote her big thing. It came out last week. Somebody else's big thing is coming out next week. Everybody's making a fortune out of tell-all books regarding Trump. So, but with music, I don't know. One of our precepts is not to listen to music, so I don't frequent Spotify. I hear Spotify and I think of a dog with spots. Because I grew up, in first grade, this was what we read, Dick, Jane, and their dog Spot. So, see, spot, run, 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 spot. So I hear spot, and that's what my association is. Okay. Then the third one, this is the one you're all going to go ballistic on. To avoid unkind or unwise sexual conduct. Okay, this is the one Westerners go ballistic. It doesn't matter their age, they just go ballistic over this one. And there's nothing really to go ballistic over. Basically, okay, the standard interpretation, okay, that you're going to get from Vasubandhu is if you're in a relationship, don't go with somebody else in one, or if they're in a relationship and you're not, don't go with them, okay? That kind of applies off across the board. Vasubandhu, who lived in the 4th century, also put out a whole bunch of other rules, which I am not going to tell you because I don't want holes in the ceiling here. But I will tell you one of the rules that made me go through the ceiling. Okay, when one of my teachers was teaching this precept, and he said, it is sexual misconduct if somebody else pays for the prostitute, but you sleep with her. What? What? Huh? Yeah? That is the negativity. Somebody else pays, but you sleep with. What about prostitution? What about the woman? What about, what's happening to her in her life experience? No thought about that. So I went right through the ceiling, straight up. No detours. Whoa! Yeah. Yeah.
How I understand this is it's a particular way when you have paid a prostitute by way of owning her within a specific time period.
Yeah.
Within that, then if anything else, it's almost like an actual legal relationship within that time frame because of the transaction, and then
somebody comes in and takes her. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You bet. I mean, it's not, prostitution is horrible for the woman. It's horrible. And all of this is based with the attitude that she's property. So you hire her for a certain amount of time. That makes her your possession. You can do whatever you want, but nobody else can touch her. But there's no mention of her feelings, of her self-esteem. Yeah, of the living conditions she's in, where she's controlled by a pimp who is, there's no talk about that. So that's what sent me through the ceiling. Yeah, is you're totally ignoring the relationship, the harmful effect of that on half of the human race. Okay, that's another soapbox I get on. Yeah, but I think it's an important one. You had?
Oh, you kind of clarified it. I was just asking if you said anything about normal kind of prostitution, so they don't, that is not sexual misconduct for someone just to hire a prostitute and then sleep with her. That's
in my book it is.
Yes.
Okay, and in writing the book with His Holiness, what I was told is some of these precepts you have to take into account the social climate and the values of that society. For example, in Tibetan society, men often, especially in Old Tibet, men could marry many women. Yeah, and it was, women could marry many men. And that was the way you kept property in one family, is the brothers would marry one woman. Okay? And so it's not monogamy, it's...
Polygamy.
Polyamory?
Yeah, it's where the no, it's anyway. You get the idea. You get the meaning. Okay, she can have many husbands, and it was also a way to keep the family's property together. Whereas if each man married somebody outside of their family, it could split the property. This way, it kept the land together. Okay, so that was their custom. That was societally acceptable. Yeah. In ancient India, prostitution was societally acceptable. Yeah. Nowadays, what do you think?
I feel like we're having a lot of calls for sex workers' rights, and like part of women's liberation movements is like empowering those women that are choosing for themselves to be sex workers, to give them a voice and healthcare and their right to choose with their bodies what they do.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody choosing to be a sex worker is very different than how most women and young boys wind up in sex work, which is unstable family situation, leaves the household. How do you make money quickly? Sex work. Okay? And sometimes the young people are troubled, drug use. The pimp gets you hooked on some drug, and then you have to keep doing what he says. Okay? So very often, and then in some countries, you know, in poor families, they sell the women into the sex work. The daughters are sold. Yeah, because the family is poor, they can't support it. That way they get some money. But you see, it's all based on the assumption that a woman's life is not worth anything and that she is there to do what men want. You know, if somebody chooses, that's their business. But if somebody is forced into it because of drugs, because of family chaos, because of poverty, yeah, if you can read lots of stories about women who are in sex work because of poverty, you know. I mean, how many 5-year-old little girls, when you say, what do you want to be when you grow up, say, I want to be a prostitute? You know, it's like asking little kids, how many little kids say, I want to be a prison guard? You know, nobody says that. Little girls, oh yeah, I want to be a prostitute when I grow up. Yeah, what are mom and dad gonna say? Oh goodness. Yeah, so, you know, I think in my book, it's based on an attitude that I find is counter to the Buddha's emphasis that all sentient beings are worthwhile, that all sentient beings are to be treated with love and with kindness, you know? So having that happen is, you know, that's my interpretation of the precept, okay? So you'll choose whichever you like. Yes.
So what I'm wondering, and if you don't want to go down this rabbit hole, that's totally fine, but I've been trying to figure out when it comes to unkind, unwise sexual behavior, what about cases of ethical non-monogamy?
Of what?
Ethical non-monogamy, so essentially being in a non-monogamous relationship, but everyone involved agrees this is something that they want. And so I've been, you know, like there's so much stigma around, you know, not being in a, like, I'm with you, you're with me, and it's just the two of us. But on the other hand, if everyone is comfortable with it and they have clear boundaries and guidelines, you know, like.
Yeah. So I talked to somebody who was in that kind of relationship, until the whole thing broke apart because it didn't work. So I think in many ways it's kind of a recipe for a lot of pain afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah, whether it's legal or not, I don't know. Whether people want to do it or not, that's their business. But I think it's kind of, it's a recipe for a lot of pain and confusion. Yeah?
I've heard of polyamory working, but it does require like extreme communication with like making sure that your partner is comfortable with who you are with at the time that you're with, and like it's hard. It does fail a lot of times, and usually because of non-communication.
Yeah. So that is going to be, how much time do you want to spend communicating with your diverse partners about your sex life and who you're sleeping with? It requires a lot of communication, a lot of processing, because you go with somebody, then this one says, but I felt hurt, and da-da-da-da-da. Then you're with that one, this one says, what about me? Then you try and bring them together in one relationship, and they don't get along. So yeah, we can spend a lot of time communicating about these things and going over, how do you feel about the relationship, and what are your emotions about it, and what, all processing all of our emotions about this. So if you want to spend your lifetime doing that, okay. Personally, I think there's a lot of better uses of our time than processing all these things again and again and again. Yeah? But it's somebody's choice.
If somebody is asexual, like they don't have any urges, I'm not sure you are familiar with that term.
Yeah, no problem.
My parents aren't. Is that considered kind of like a fortuitous thing? Like it's a fortunate, just because you have less attachment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's so many different varieties. I cannot keep up with the vocabulary these days. Yeah? Really, it's like every time I turn around, there's 5 new words I'm supposed to understand. And, it's like I'm 71. Give me a break. Yeah.
Just one other. So everything, like, no questions about your response to my question, but it did make me wonder, like, how you choose to spend your time within a relationship. I feel like you could take that to the conclusion of, even in a monogamous relationship, how much time do you want to spend? Because arguably you should be talking about your feelings and processing all of this, right? And so I'm just trying to understand, like.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing, yeah, even you're in a monogamous relationship, you need to talk about the relationship and your feelings and their feelings and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, so it's like, and you need to do that to keep peace, and you need to do it yourself to process your feelings. But it takes a lot of time. Yeah, it takes a lot of time. So just be aware of that. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a secret. That's not a secret. If somebody had told me when I was 20 years old that I would be celibate, I would have told them they were out of their mind. Okay? But it's wonderful. It's so nice. Yeah? Because people have to relate to me as a human being. They don't relate to me as a woman. Well, I mean, they know I'm a woman, but yeah. Some of them don't. I'm in the woman's bathroom and they come in and go, ah, because they think I'm a man. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's happened more than once. Yeah. And flight attendants, what would you like to drink, sir? May I have your ticket, sir? Okay. So, you can either make a big deal out of it or you can laugh. I choose to laugh. I don't want to, start a whole thing with the flight attendant. Do you know that I'm a Buddhist nun, and I want you to know my identity and respect me for my identity. And I am a woman, and you don't call me sir. That's really going to create a lot of harmony. Good feeling towards Buddhism. Buddhist nuns are so polite, they tell you off right in front of other people. Yeah. So, yeah.
In Atlanta, I got referred to as madam a lot.
Oh, you get referred to as madam.
I would go in the buses.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, madam.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Really, and people will come up to me also. This is usually women will come up to me and put their hand on my back. We're standing in a line, and they put their hand on my back, and they say, "Don't worry, dear. When the chemo's over, your hair will grow again."
Oh, right.
No.
Isn't that sweet? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people would be horribly offended, but to me, it's somebody's really saying, I care. Yeah, I care. I want to comfort you. Yeah. Fortunately, that's not why I don't have any hair. Yeah. But I think it's a very kind gesture on their part, so I don't get offended. What are you talking about? I'm a Buddhist nun, I deliberately do this. It's like, yeah. Okay. So here at the Abbey, it's not just to avoid unkind and unwise sexual behavior. Here we are celibate. Okay? So celibate, the Abbey's definition, doesn't mean you go so far and then you stop about 15 seconds. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't mean that. It means that we stop all the trips that we go through to be sexually attractive to someone. So it includes all flirting. Yeah. So it's very interesting. You come here and then you become aware of how much you flirt. Yeah. If you don't become aware of it, look closely. Yeah. But, all the different ways that we walk, we sit, we use our voice, we use our hands, to be, to flirt. Mm-hmm. So whether you're men, whether you're women, we know the scene, okay? And, how you say something, how you look at somebody. So, like they're across the room and you're here, but you kind of look and they look back at you. And, there's kind of the thing of, well, we'll do walking meditation close to each other. Whatever it is. Okay, so what's really nice is to be here and you don't have to play any of those games. Okay, this is not the place to pick up a partner. Okay, we're here for a totally different reason. And so we don't need to play those games and do those trips and think of ourselves in that kind of way. So it gives you a lot of internal freedom. Yeah. There's not all this monitoring of, how am I moving, how am I using how am I using my voice, and who do I look at when I give a talk, and this kind of stuff. Yeah. So then that means that there actually happens much more honest communication. Yeah. Much more direct and honest communication. It's really refreshing. Okay. Oh, so then, I should describe it more. So it's usually called sexual misconduct, according to Vasubandhu's way of doing it. I like to call it to avoid harmful, or no, what are the words I just used? I'm not thinking. Unwise and unkind sexual behavior. Okay? So, unwise. Yeah. If you can, receive, if you can get an STD, if you can give someone an STD, do you guys know what that means? Is that the in vocabulary now? Where there's a possibility, of somebody getting something they don't want. Okay, that's unwise. And that also applies to if you don't want to get pregnant, use birth control. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to get into Roe versus Wade, but if you don't want to have a baby, use birth control. And that goes for men as well. I mean, a baby comes about, it's not just a women's thing, it's a men thing. The men make the rules. Don't you love it? I don't love it either. Yeah.
There's male birth control.
There sure is.
Yeah, there is.
Lots of effective drugs too, and so many things that are like so cost effective. I'm sorry, I won't count myself up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in other words, the idea is be responsible. Okay? Now, of course, when it comes to responsibility and sexual arousement, what wins out? We all know. Okay? So you need some planning beforehand. Okay, that's my birth control spiel. But then unkind sexual behavior. So I know that this is the days of the hookup culture, right? Yeah, people hook up. It's like there's no commitment. We just love being, having sex together. There's no emotional commitment. In fact, we don't want emotional commitment, or we're just doing this, and that's considered, fine in society. From a Buddhist viewpoint, put it this way: if two people say yes, it's only for the sex part, and they both maintain that attitude over a long period of time, okay. How long do you think they're going to maintain that attitude without one or the other person starting to have some emotional feelings for the other one? Yeah? Do you think that that's going to last a long time, just, hook up and then separate and no problem? Or do you think that there's a likelihood of one or the other person getting emotionally involved with the other, such that when the other person says, okay, now we're done, I want to go hook up with somebody else, then this person is hurt. Yeah. And the same with casual sex, are you thinking about people's feelings, or is somebody simply becoming an object to give you pleasure? Yeah, and that's the question I have for young people, because it's, well, not just young people, all those old people too. Just how much do we value human beings as human beings, and how much are they objects for our sensual satisfaction? So I think it's a question to ask ourselves, because if you get involved in a relationship and the other person's getting attached to you and has feelings for you, but you don't have them for them, but you continue with the sexual relationship. Yeah. In the days of the dinosaurs, that was called leading somebody on. Okay, now I don't know what you call it, but I consider that unkind sexual behavior. Okay, because people are human beings and they have feelings. I remember in one meeting when His Holiness was, I forget which meeting it was, but somehow this topic came up. And somebody said, well, Thich Nhat Hanh, because His Holiness was saying, well, in the Buddhist scriptures, it's just Vasubandhu's thing, and that's the definition. And then somebody said, but Thich Nhat Hanh says that he's a very famous Vietnamese master, that you should have some affection for the other person, And His Holiness paused and he said, that sounds like a good idea. It's not written in the scriptures, but it makes sense. Okay, so just, again, something to think about. Yeah, and it's not done with a moralistic thing of, the scarlet letter kind of stuff. It's done with just, and this is the viewpoint with all the 5 precepts, when I do that action, what effect does it have on me? And when I do that action, what effect does it have on the other person? Because our actions matter. Sometimes we feel, I can't change anything, I can't control the world. Okay, we can't control the world, nobody can. But what we do does matter, and it influences other people. And if we're inconsiderate, if we use people as we use cars, then, it has effect. It has effect on them. They might have hurt feelings, but it affects us too. Look what kind of attitude we are cultivating in ourselves when we just use people for our own gain. And this doesn't apply to using people sexually for our own gain. It could apply to using them to have contacts, to using them to get money, just using people. Yeah. And what does it do to our mind to cultivate that attitude towards other living beings? Yeah. Is that going to help us create love, impartial love and compassion for everybody? I don't know about you, but it's hard, if my mind is just geared towards using somebody for my own benefit, love and compassion are, they're out the window. Yeah. So just see, and then how do I feel about myself? Yeah. This is another thing that is very seldom emphasized nowadays. Through any of our actions, even if they're legal, whatever, how do I feel about myself when I do that action? Yeah. So I think that's an important consideration. Not that we're supposed to feel bad, we're supposed to feel guilty, I hate myself. No, there's none of that supposed to things. Like I was saying the other day, guilt is not a virtuous mental factor. We are not trying to cultivate it. But the point is, when we do things that don't jive with our own values and with our ethic, our precepts, if we've chosen to take precepts, then there's some feeling of discomfort and remorse in us. It's like, really, I did that? And it's adversely affecting somebody else. And you begin to say, I really don't want to cause other people pain like that. But then it weighs on us because we did something that is usually motivated by self-concern. Yeah? So, again, for our own benefit, so we don't go through life with regrets, to be very, make decisions, make choices wisely, take time, don't be impetuous and rush into things. Yeah, because you wind up choosing things that seem great at one moment, and then they wind up. Yeah. So we can talk a lot about politics here, you know. Yeah.
What's the Buddhist viewpoint on like zoos?
On what?
Like zoos or like animals in captivity?
Oh, zoos. Okay. I don't think there's a particular one. It's like treat them with kindness. Yeah, now some people may say, but you're confining them, they should be out in the wild. That has some value. But some of them are endangered species, and if human beings don't, help them replenish, then, a zoo is a good opportunity to do that. On the other hand, if they go extinct, is that really terrible? They're going to be reborn somewhere else as some other thing. But on the other hand, it affects the whole, the whole ecosystem, which affects everybody else. So, again, there's a lot of things to consider. And people will come up with different answers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been wondering also about how animals are considered sentient beings and insects, but plants, are they also considered sentient beings and applied to the no-killing?
Yeah. No, plants are not considered sentient beings. Biologically, they're alive. Do they have mind? Do they have consciousness? No. Yeah. What's the one, the dragon, the one you put something in it and it eats you?
Oh, Venus flytrap?
What?
Venus flytrap?
Yes, that one. So you may say, but that one senses the prey and grabs it. That doesn't mean that it has consciousness. That one is more a biological thing that is happening. Yeah. They do say that some sentient beings may take not so much a plant, but a tree as their habitat. Yeah. And so different spirits that may be the home of the spirit. So you try and respect it. Or there's different beings who live in the waterways. So you don't pollute the waterways because it adversely affects those spirits, as well as all the other animals who live in the waterways. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When we don't kill like an insect, like say you could kill like a little beetle and it wouldn't even see it coming, and it seems sort of like, oh, it's an unfortunate rebirth for that beetle, maybe it'll get a better rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
So when we don't kill, that's more for our benefit, or is that more for our benefit, so that we don't kind of add that like habit to the mind stream and kind of habituate like, oh, it's kind of okay to kill?
Yeah. It's for both. I mean, because the insect experiences suffering. Yeah. We say, well, they get stepped on. They don't feel anything. Yeah, I get stepped on. I feel something. I'm sure the bug does too. You just step on my toe and I feel something. They're getting completely smashed. Okay. So what it does is it really, people talk a lot about mindfulness. It really makes you much more aware of your environment and who's in it. Yeah, because you don't want to hurt these little critters. Yeah. This morning, I had something running across my iPad. It was really the size of a dust mote. And the only way I knew it was a sentient being was the iPad was still and it was moving across it. This teeny tiny thing, And it's like, well, I can't leave you there because I'm going to close the iPad and you're going to get smashed. So you invent all these ways to take a bug out and release it somewhere else and wish it well. Maybe say some mantra over it and blow on it. Yeah. But we become experts here at taking out bugs because there are a lot of bugs here who give you a lot of opportunity to be expert at saving their lives.
On this topic, about a year ago, I was cleaning a window, and I forget exactly what happened, but I didn't see a bug, and I hardened it, and it was like going to die. And so I could either leave it there and let it die on its own over a certain amount of hours and just bear a huge amount of suffering, or I could just kill it in that moment and have it be done with that sooner. And it was like a really difficult ethical decision to know what to do, because it felt like not killing it is actually kind of selfish, because it's I don't want that karma or whatever it is when this animal is just going to sit here and suffer.
Okay, so that's that whole thing about euthanasia. Yeah, if you know where somebody's going to be reborn, you have that extrasensory awareness and can see where they're going to be reborn, and you can see that it's a better rebirth. Then with compassion, you can smash them, because they'll have a better rebirth afterwards. Now, the question is, how many of us know what somebody's karma is that's going to produce their next rebirth? I have no idea. If we don't know where somebody's going to be reborn, then smashing them, removes this life's suffering, but it sends them sooner to next life's suffering. Okay? So I usually choose to leave the bugs there. And what I do is I say Om Mani Padme Hum, the compassion mantra. It's amazing how many bugs you think are like they're on their way out. You say that mantra and blow on them, and you come back 10 minutes later and they're not there anymore. Yeah, they flew away, they walked away. Someone that you thought was really going to die, it didn't. But if you did that, the thing about, all of us do all sorts of things that we don't feel good about, right? Yeah. Especially before you actually sit down and think about ethical conduct, when you're not thinking, So there's a whole purification process you can do to purify the imprints of this. Because you don't want to go through your whole life, like, oh God, how did I do that? I'm such a bad person. Which, again, is just mental rubbish, but we don't want it hanging over us. And then also going through the experience of the karmic results of what we've done, which is a different ballgame than feeling guilty or whatever. Okay, we still have, we're ending in 1 minute, and we still have 2 precepts to go. Okay. Okay, now we just, that 1 minute is over. Okay, so do you want me to do one more? Okay, I'll do one more. And then the 5th one is the other one you're going to freak out about. So I'll save that one for tomorrow, where we have a nice long time where you can really freak out well. Okay. Okay, but the 4th precept is not to lie. Okay, now the worst kind of lies are to lie about your spiritual attainments. Yeah? To pretend to have some kind of realization, some kind of special power that in fact you don't have. And that is so harmful, because it really is deceptive towards other people. Then they place their faith in you to guide them, but you're just phony baloney, making up lies right, left, and center about being a holy being. And that's very detrimental for other people, and it's detrimental for yourself, and it's usually based on you're greedy for offerings. You're greedy for respect. So you pretend to be somebody who's very wise, and highly realized. And you roll back your eyeballs when they approach. Yes. What can I do for you, my child? Yeah. Okay. You pretend to be some kind of holy being, and that's harmful for yourself. It's harmful for the other people. You know, it's really, we should be very honest. And I say this because there is a spiritual supermarket in society. Just pick up the local New Age newsletter, and you will come up with lots of alternatives, you know. And remember, they're all $99.99 if you do them by, you know, Saturday. Yeah, and then you buy. So there's all sorts of things. So many of them are online, many of them are apps, many of them are, you know, being with somebody, all sorts of stuff, okay? So what we need here is some wise discrimination. First of all, in the spiritual supermarket, you have to be clear about which things you believe work and what the result of them is. Okay, for example, crystals. Yeah, crystals are still in, aren't they? Yeah. Okay, I got to check everything because, you know, lots of times I say something, you guys like, what are you talking about, lady? You know? Okay, so crystals are still in. So somebody is, you know, has all the crystals, and if you put them in your garden in a certain pattern, your plants will grow better. If you put them in your house, different places, it creates better energy flow. If you put them here, or you know, put them here, or wherever you put them, it will, you know, affect your different nervous systems. And there's all sorts of theories about that. Yeah. So you've got to think: is this first of all, what is the purpose of this? What is its short-term purpose, and what is its long-term purpose? Okay, so the people who are advocating crystals, it's mostly, my observation, is for short-term purpose. To grow your garden, to make you more relaxed, whatever it is, yeah? Long-term purpose, they don't really talk about becoming awakened due to crystals, yeah? So, okay, what am I looking for? If I'm looking for some short-term benefit, you know, and I think crystals might help, then that's fine, okay? But I shouldn't go looking at the crystals expecting that to be a path to awakening. Okay? And you do your crystals and then finished, and, you know, maybe they work, maybe they don't, maybe you want your $99.99 back. You know, maybe you invest for another round, I don't know. Okay, so this goes for a lot of different things, you know, and you have to just decide what you believe works for the short-term benefit side. I've had people who, without me asking, kind of say, you're going to have experience this, fortune-telling kind of, you're going to experience this, or, you know, you better be careful of that. I haven't asked for anything. They say that they have some kind of powers, and, you know, we're having a cup of tea and I want to talk about something else, and they're telling me, you know, whatever it is. You know, that's not something, even when it's free, thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, in Buddhism we say that some people may have that ability if they have high realizations, But some people may not have high realizations and have some kind of ability just through either the power of their concentration or through karma. But that doesn't mean that their telepathy is always valid. Yeah, so somebody may say, I have that ability, but it doesn't mean that it's always valid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not awakened beings. Yeah. And one interesting thing that I noticed, when we first started the Abbey, there was some New Age kind of fair going on in, I forget if it was Coeur d'Alene or Spokane, but they invited us to come have a table. And we thought, well, we're new in the area and we'll put out our Buddhist things, and who knows, some people might be interested. So we went there, we were assigned a table, we put out Dharma books, and we're waiting, and people were walking by. So on this side, there was one person telling a fortune through, I forget how, and there was another person telling fortunes on this side. Yeah. Okay, so one was doing it through maybe tarot cards, and the other one was doing it, I don't know what their method was, yeah. Well, it was so interesting because people would go to this fortune teller, and I would watch, and the fortune teller is doing something, and they so concentrated listening to what the fortune teller is saying. They see the Buddhist table, they go on to the next fortune teller. Yeah. It was enthralling to see how enthralled they were with the fortune teller. Why do you suppose that they were so enthralled with the fortune teller? What's the basis of that?
It seems like a quick, easy solution.
Uh-huh.
Self-centered attitude, and self-focused thought, and just only being able to kind of think about their own future and what's going to happen to them.
That's it, isn't it? It's a quick fix for my needs. Yeah. So I'm sure if I had gone to have my fortune told, they would have gotten up and left. They're not interested in my fortune, They're interested in their fortune. The fortune teller told them. What's the root of it? Okay. So there are instances where people believe they have those abilities, and some people may have those abilities. And then there are instances where people are flat out lying and deceiving others. Okay. So the flat out lying is really, that's quite negative, in terms of the effect on others and the effect on your own mind. Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about politicians. Who are the biggest liars? The politicians or the business people, the CEOs? Yeah? Who has the most money in our society? Politicians, the CEOs. Yeah, they both have a lot of money. Yeah. And how do you get power and money?
Self-centered attitude.
It's a self-centered attitude, and it's a form of stealing. Except here you lie to get the material things. So you actually have two negativities. You have the lying negativity and you have the stealing negativity. Okay? Yeah. And the response is, well, if I can do it, it's okay. Well, what about loopholes? Who put those loopholes in? Are those people acting ethically? Yeah. Who was it? Warren Buffett said that his secretary pays more in taxes than he does. He's a billionaire. Who made those loopholes? What was their motivation? Okay. That's one level of lying. Another level of lying is the common thing we do. Yeah. Somebody says, can we meet on Tuesday evening? And you don't really want to see that person, so you say, I'm sorry, I'm busy, even though you aren't. That's standard. Yeah. Right? Why don't you say, thank you very much for the invitation, but I'm going to decline? What's wrong with saying that? Yeah? Now, we used to, my generation, I talk about it so lovingly, we had the opportunity to lie when somebody called us on the telephone, yeah, and you had a family member or a friend answer the phone, and then they would say the name of the person. Oh, well, hello, George, you know, and then look at you, and you would go, and then they would say, oh, sorry, you know, she's not here now. Or you would go, and then they would say, okay, I'll give the phone, yeah. But how many times did we tell people that we didn't want to speak to tell the people on the phone that I'm not there? Okay. Why not say, you know, you're busy? Why do you need to make up some phony baloney excuse like, you know, well, I went to the horse races, that's why I wasn't there. Yeah? So often we don't just say the truth, and the truth is not harmful at all. But for some reason or another, we don't say it. Yeah. When I was in Tibet, I had a very good friend there, and he wanted to take back some, I think, Tibetan carpets or something from Tibet back to India. And instead of just kind of asking me directly, you know, would you do that? There was some kind of something, you know, and I thought, well, gee, why is this person making up the story? It's fine if they just tell me directly. Yeah. And so often in personal relationships, we lie to people, you know, oh, I'm going to protect their feelings, so I'm going to lie. Yeah. Well, in many of those situations, there is a way to tell the truth without, you know, telling the truth doesn't mean you need to tell your inner feelings. Yeah. You don't need to be truthful about them. Okay, example. Yeah. Aunt Ethel or Grandma. Yeah. Grandma invited you over for dinner. Yeah. And she cooked exactly what you can't stand. Yeah. And you're sitting there at the dinner table with Grandma and the food that you don't like. And Grandma says, how do you like the food? And then you think, oh, well, I'm not going to lie. I said I'm going to tell the truth. So I say, Grandma, it stinks. Don't ever cook this again when you invite me over. Okay, that's going to create a few problems. Okay? So somebody asking you that doesn't mean you give the whole, you have to say something like that. Okay. What is Grandma really asking you when she says, how do you like the food? Is her question really, how do you like the food, or is she asking something else? What else could she be asking?
Did I cook it well?
Could be that.
Do you feel my affection for you?
Yep. I care about you, and I'm showing my affection through cooking you a meal. Do you are you receiving my love and affection for you? That's what her question is. She doesn't really care about if you like the food. So if Grandma asks that question, you can't stand the food, you can still say, Grandma, I really appreciate that you care so much about me, that you spent all afternoon cooking me a meal, and I love coming over here and spending time with you. That answers the question she's really asking. That answer will make her feel good. Lying and saying, oh, it's delicious, Grandma, that's not going to help. Yeah? Even you like the food. Yeah, if you respond and because what she's really wanting you to know is she cares about you. And do you get that message? And do you have some reciprocal feeling for her? Yeah? And so you use that as a moment to express your affection to Grandma. So the problem with lying in general is you tell this to this person, that to that person, this, and you have a variety of different lies you've told to different people. And then you can't remember who you told what to. And then those people get together and talk. Yeah. And that's one problem with lying. Another problem with lying is you have the original action that you did that you don't want anybody to know, and then you have the lie. So you have double toil and trouble. Okay? Because you have the lie, the original action, and then the lie. Okay, you need an example? Bill Clinton. Okay? Donald Trump. Yeah. Many of the people who are testifying at the January 6th investigations. You know, you say one thing here, you know. Well, like the one thing that they did with the first set of public hearings, that was on Friday, I think. Friday, no, Thursday, Wednesday, one of those days. They all blur together. They were showing some more of the video footage, some of it that hadn't been seen before, of January 6th. And in the background, they have the recording, and I've heard this recording many times previously, of Trump saying, it was so full of love there. You should have experienced the love present on January 6th. You're hearing Trump's voice, you're watching the video of what happened. Okay? That is, you know, how are you going to uphold that? I mean, it's clear. In his case, I don't know if he's just mentally unstable or if he really, you know, and really believes that, if he's hallucinating, or if he's lying. Let's say he's lying, you know? And you expect other people to believe that? Yeah. I think Bill Clinton knew he was lying. You know, he wasn't mentally unstable. Trump is really, he's quite out there.
Is it easy to kind of feel compassion for him, I feel sometimes?
Yes.
It's just this one video, he walks out of a baseball game expecting cheers for him, and they all start booing him, and his face like falls, and even my stomach dropped. I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. But isn't it sad that he derives his feeling of being a good person by having a rally and people cheering him on? To me, that somebody who is an addict towards that kind of public praise, and I think some sports stars, some movie stars, fall into that, and they need it. That's their food in order to feel like they're a worthwhile person. And I look at that, and that's really sad. That's sad that that's what it takes for somebody to feel good about themselves. Yeah. But then you see, okay, I don't know how much you guys are following things. Sometimes it seems like you don't know. Yeah, you know all the cultural wars, but you don't know the political ones. Yeah, but the cultural wars are being politicized now. Anyway, you take what Kevin McCarthy did, right after January 6th. He's the Republican wannabe for Speaker of the House. Okay, and so he was like shocked what happened. He knew Trump was behind it, and he was saying, we got to do something about this. What this guy's doing is dangerous. Then, a few weeks later, what's he doing? He's down at Mar-a-Lago with his hand around his buddy, Trump. Yeah. Now, what's going on in his mind? What does this man really believe? How much can I trust him if he says something here, and then 2 weeks later is brown-nosing up to the person that he just criticized? Yeah, how is he telling the truth? Can I trust him? Yeah, and so with all the QAnon, with all the media now, where everybody has a voice and can say what they mean, or not even what they mean, what they want to say. Yeah, who do we trust? Who do we know is telling the truth? You listen to Steve Bannon and he tells you one thing. Yeah, do you know who Steve Bannon is? Okay, yeah. You listen to Rachel Maddow, you hear another thing. Who are you going to believe? Okay? And so this is where our society gets very, very confusing, because we can't trust people to tell the truth. Yeah. Back in the days of the dinosaurs, we all watched Walter Cronkite. Yeah, him. Yeah, we watched him. At 6 o'clock, everybody in the country watched the same thing and heard the same thing. Okay, people had different views on it, but they heard the same thing. Now, you hear just the facts. Kellyanne, dear Kellyanne, coined the phrase. You know who Kellyanne is? You don't know who Kellyanne is? Okay. Kellyanne was in Trump's White House. What did she have an official position besides making, brown-nosing the president? Yeah. Anyway, she had some position or something, and this was very early on in his presidency, and something, she reported one thing, and the news was reporting another thing, and she said, "Oh, there are just alternative facts." Yeah, alternative facts. Excuse me, facts. Facts are facts. and you don't have an alternative set of them. Yeah, that you have, you take out your alternative. These facts don't fit what my ego wants, so I'm going to take out those facts and use them to prove my case. But they're phony baloney. Yeah. So, I'm taking a long time with this one. Anyway, I'll try and wrap it up. I'll try and wrap it up. The thing about lying is that it breaks trust. Besides getting yourself in a very confusing situation, because so often the people that we lie to find out, and then you have to explain yourself. Just ask Bill, he really went through a lot. He thought, say lying would get him out of the thing. If he had just said, yes, I did that and I'm sorry, then all the other men would have gone, oh, okay. I can say that too. So you get yourself in a pickle. And then especially if you're lying to people that you either care about or you're going to be involved with for a long period of time, lying breaks the trust. Yeah? And broken trust is very, very hard to repair. Yeah? I know for me, if somebody lies to me, it's like, okay. It really harms the relationship because, I can't trust them. I can't trust what they say. Now, one question, when I go to Singapore every year, one question the business guys always ask me. Well, they don't ask me, they tell me, if you're going to do business, you have to lie. Okay? They say this. And what they're wanting me to say is they want me to give them, the sacrament and say, well, yes, dear, that's okay. It's part of your job. No, I don't say that. Okay, I don't give approval for that. I tell them the story of another friend of mine who used to be an executive in Levi Strauss in Hong Kong. And I asked her this question one day about, telling the truth to your customers in order to close a business deal. And she said, if you lie to your customers, and overcharge them or, you lie in some way, they're not going to trust you after that. They won't come back to you for future business, and they won't recommend you to other friends who do business. So you may get more money because you've lied to them on that transaction, but they're not going to trust you. They won't come back. But if you are truthful, even though it may cost you some money at the beginning, those people will trust you. And they'll come back and they will bring their friends. And that makes a lot of sense to me. So I would always tell this. There's one businessman, every time I go to Singapore, he offers sangadana, he offers lunch, and he asks me this question. And I give the same answer every year. And it's straight from, the mouth of somebody else who was an executive. So, so it's better. But how you say the truth makes a big deal, is a big thing. If, somebody say, well, how do you feel about me? You say, I can't stand your guts. Okay, that's one way to say it. Another way to say it is, what is it that bothers you about the other person? Or You could say, you could talk about, well, you don't say hello in the morning. And so I would feel a lot closer to you if, we would just greet each other and say hello. Instead of saying, I don't feel comfortable around you because you don't say good morning to me. Okay? So there's different ways to say things. Yeah, your parents don't want you to, they don't understand what Buddhism is. You want to go on a retreat. If you say, I'm going on a retreat, there's going to be a big knockdown, drag out, and it's going to be totally miserable. So what do you say? Mom, Dad, I don't care what you feel. I'm going on this Buddhist retreat because I'm going to meditate on compassion for all sentient beings. Yeah. Yeah. No, you say, they're teaching us breathing. You don't even have to say Buddhism or any religion. I'm going to learn how to breathe, to be very mindful of my breath, to learn how I can regulate my emotions by watching my breath. And, I've looked up the people leading it, and, they look like good people, and, whatever. Yeah. And when you come home, yeah, even your parents know you came to some Buddhist thing, yeah. And when you come home, you don't start off with, Mom, Dad, this was fantastic. I learned all about rebirth and Buddha and Dharma and Sangha and karma and enlightenment. And you throw out all these words and your parents are going, what is my kid talking about? What is this? But she's talking about all this stuff. I don't know what it means. No. What you want to impress your parents with what you learned at the retreat. You know what you do? You take out the garbage. You go home and you take out the garbage. And your mother's there going, oh my God. I've been trying to get my kid to help take out the garbage for 25 years. And they come home from a Buddhist retreat and they do it. Buddhism is great. Yeah. Yeah, you show it through your actions. And that works much better than throwing out a bunch of jargon they don't understand. Okay, just really taking out the garbage. It's a very important technique. It's the secret method to getting along with your parents. Yeah, take out the garbage, clean your room, say please and thank you. That's all you need. And keep your mouth shut about, don't pick fights. Don't pick fights. If you are polite, if you are kind, if you are helpful, then your actions are telling them something about what's going on in your mind. And they're going to like that. And it's an honest way of expressing your affection for your parents. I mean, after all, how much garbage did they take out for us? In the days of, nobody washes their diapers now. What do you call them, diapers? You still call them diapers, but throwaway diapers. And those are big and bulky. How much garbage did our parents take out just for the diapers we used? Yeah, so we can take out the garbage a few times when we're adults, Yeah. Did we ever say, thank you for getting up in the middle of the night to feed me? No, we didn't say that. We went, ah! Okay, so it's good to kind of, recognize these things and acknowledge them. Yeah. It helps a lot. It helps our mind and it helps them. Okay, and I say this from personal experience, which is another story.